We'll call the February 21st, 2024 Policy and Academic Committee meeting to order. Roll call.
Here.
Here.
Ms. Petita.
Here.
Mr. Wright. Here.
All right. Section 2, Policy and Procedure, Proposed Policy Revisions and New Policies. Policy CN, Administrative Records, Ms. Email.
Good evening. Act 247 of the 2023 Louisiana Legislative Session provided for the following changes to Policy CN, Administrative Records. It defines the custodian of record. It provides that files are not to leave the district premises except for official school business, and provides the regulations by which a school board member can examine documents. Verbiage was added to include information regarding the duplication of records, such as the method to request the documentation and the costs associated with the request, specifically stating a fee schedule shall be set by the school board and posted where it can be readily accessed by the public. The district is in the process of preparing a schedule, and it will be brought to you for review and adoption at the full board meeting on March 6th. It also added information on the disposal of records based upon the record retention of the district.
All right, and the recommended action is to approve revisions to Policy CN, Administrative Records. So moved. And myself and Ms. Marion, any public comment? Any board discussion? All right, since none, we can vote. Motion carries. Item B, to approve revisions to Policy DFK, Gifts and Donations. Ms. Email.
346 of the 2023 Louisiana Legislative Session provided for the following changes to Policy DFK, Gifts and Donations. It added additional verbiage which aligns to the Louisiana ethics rules and other statutory guidelines as it pertains to gifts. It also provides a mandate to make publicly available on the district website a document which lists donations received at the district and school level. It also clarifies that the district reserves the right to review all provisions of a donation to ensure it conforms with district standards. Items donated will be retained by the school under ownership of LaFouche Parish School Board, and it requires principals to keep permanent records of donations.
I'll take a motion. Mr. Wright, Ms. Fertitta. Any public comment? Any board discussion? Sensing none, let's vote. The motion carries. Item C, to approve revisions to Policy EBBH, use of automatic external defibrillators, AED, and cardiac emergency plan. Mr. Phillips.
Good evening, everyone. Act 234 of the 2023 legislative session revised statute 401137.3 to require elementary and middle schools, in addition to high schools, to have AEDs on their premises. The revisions require each elementary, middle, and high school to have AEDs, and that any such school that sponsors an interscholastic event will have an AED and a trained AED user who is trained in first aid CPR at the event. In addition, these schools shall have a cardiac emergency response plan to reduce death from cardiac arrest at an interscholastic athletic event. These required revisions were made by Forethought Consulting and are reflected in Policy EBBH, use of automated defibrillator and cardiac emergency plan. They have been reviewed by our board attorney and child welfare and attendance staff, and in order, I recommend their adoption for approval.
I so move. Ms. Fertitta, second. Any public comment? Any board discussion?
Yeah, one question, Coach Phillips, like, this equipment, could it be used like during PE as well?
Yes. Yeah, everyone in the school will have access to it. It'll be in a centrally located area in the school, and there'll be designated people on staff training.
Do we currently have those in every school? Oh, we do, okay. I remember when they talked about it, the state, we want the state to provide them.
We've actually had them for a while. We continue to add more, but, I'm listing my desk. It shows what it is. Every high school has two, and we have one. Almost every campus that's not a high school, the defibrillators are in the office, but what really makes sense.
This will be added to the training with the medication training, this type of, using this equipment,
CDR.
CPO, okay.
So, in the elementary school, we don't presently have them, or we do?
We do, yes,
So
sir.
we have the ones that have the pads that are appropriate in size.
That's correct.
We have pediatric defibrillators.
So now, you're only making me 80% confident in my answer. I'll have to get back to you on the pediatric.
Get back with me.
So just for further information, the provisions are to be implemented the first school year that starts at least 12 months after the effective date of the act, which was June 9th, 2023. So it's
Officially
some time.
in the fall, right? So, of concern, we need to make sure that the pads are appropriate.
Yep.
And that's not to say that you don't need an adult one on site if a staff or a teacher would go down. But if a kid goes down, you need them to be appropriate size.
Gary, brilliant.
Yeah, the kid.
Thank you, Steve.
So we're actually ahead of the curve right now.
Yes.
We're actually ahead of the curve.
In fact, I'm looking at the email that Ms. Gwen helped me retrieve. We actually have 36 AEDs right now in our possession.
And it's also a different training we was doing for the smaller kids in the high school level that they're given also. That's appropriate for this.
Right. So what most of them do is the pads plug in, the unit senses the different size pads and functions appropriately as in a pediatric mode typically. And then if an adult pad is plugged in, then it functions as an adult. But let's check
Same
that.
unit, different path.
Let's check that to make sure that that's correct, and we'll get a re-report on that. Any other discussion? All right, sensing none, we can vote. And carries. Item D, to approve revisions to policy GBG probation. Mr. Martin.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The probation policy has been updated to recognize the superintendent's authority to dismiss school employees, those employees who are not teachers or bus operators, without going to the school board. School employees are not entitled to appear before the board, and this brings the policy in line with the 2012 legislation giving the superintendent responsibility for personnel decisions, also known as Act 11.
I so move. Mr. Wright, second. Any public comment? Any board? Yes, ma'am. Okay. You're not hearing him or you're not hearing me? Call us both out. That's okay.
I apologize. I will project.
I will put my Jim voice on. All right, any board discussion? Yes, Ms.
Just
Bell.
as a point of clarification, this is only during the probationary period. This is at any time.
So we're having to amend the probation policy. But in that policy, it articulates now very clearly that even after probation, if you are not a teacher, and not a bus driver, there is no expectation for continued employment. You are an at-will employee, subject to dismissal by the superintendent, and not afforded a hearing before the board.
Thank you for the clarification.
Just going to add that, as far as I knew, Louisiana is an employment at will state, and that still is correct.
Yeah.
All right, any other discussion? All right, since none, we can vote. It carries. Item E, to approve revisions to policy IHAD, parent conferences. Mr. Phillips.
When the discipline policies were revised in 2021 by Act 473, necessary changes to the section on disciplinary conferences information and policy IHAD, parent conferences, were overlooked and have now been updated by Forethought Consulting. The Act provided that disciplinary conferences with parents may be held by telephone or virtual means. Also, although the term legal guardian has already replaced guardian in the discipline law, revised statute 17416, the statutes regarding academic conferences still contain guardian, as those statutes have not been updated in years. Forethought has taken the liberty of adding legal to the section on academic conferences information in policy IHAD, parent conferences, as well. Additional changes remove the term tutor and replaces the term pupil with student. These revisions by Forethought Consulting to policy IHAD, parent conferences, have been reviewed by our board attorney and CWA staff and are in order. I recommend their adoption for approval.
I need my motion. Nikita, Mr. Wright. Any public comment? Any board discussion? Hearing none, we can vote. The motion carries. Item F, to approve revisions to policy JGB, school wellness. Mr. Phillips.
Act 219 of 2023 enacts revised statute 1717.7 and requires that each public school, which includes any of the grades kindergarten through 5th, to provide at least 15 minutes of recess, consisting of supervised unstructured free play each school day. Forethought Consulting does not believe this needs to be treated as a separate policy, but Forethought Consulting has incorporated this language as appropriate in policy JGB, school wellness. Revisions by Forethought Consulting to policy JGB, school wellness, has been reviewed by our board attorney and CWA staff and is in order. I recommend its adoption for approval.
All right, I so move. Ms. Marion, second. Any public comment? Any board discussion?
There's one teaching. Yes, one. Now, oftentimes our schools do more than one, but the law mandates 15 collective minutes of recess.
Non-structured free play. Right, any other discussion? All right, sensing none, we can vote. And carries. To approve, item G, to approve revisions to policy JGC, student health services. Mr. Phillips.
Act 266 of 2023 enacts revised statute 17392.11 and requires that the Department of Education select a dyslexia screener and provide it at no cost to each public school. The dyslexia screener shall be administered to each student by a classroom teacher in the second half of kindergarten or upon request of a teacher or parent or legal guardian. The provisions were subject to the appropriation of funds by the legislature. In an email response based on an inquiry by Forethought Consulting about aspects of the Act, the DOE acknowledged that funding was provided. However, the DOE has to enter into a request for proposal to select a statewide dyslexia screener and advises systems to continue their current screening practices until a screener is selected. A request for proposal, or RFP, is an open request for bids to complete a new project proposed by the company or other organization that issues it. It is meant to open up competition and to encourage a variety of alternative proposals that might be considered by the project's planner. The DOE also advised that boards be proactive in adopting a revision to policy JGC, Student Health Services, to include this new requirement. Therefore, Forethought has added a section entitled Dyslexia Screening and Reporting to policy JGC, Student Health Services, noting that the implementation of the provisions of this dyslexia screener and reporting policy shall be subject to the appropriation of funds by the legislature for this purpose. The revisions by Forethought Consulting to policy JGC, Student Health Services, has been reviewed by our board attorney and CWA staff and is in order. I recommend its adoption for approval.
I need a motion. So Mr. Wright and Ms. Fertitta. Any public comment?
Good evening, Brian Sapie, 110 Bourgeois Street, Grayson, Louisiana. Being a person who has dyslexia, I just want to say I support this policy. I think it is really good. I know it's tied to state funding, so could be a good thing in certain ways and could be a bad thing in certain ways because you're not sure maybe every year if you're going to get a certain amount of funding. And I know the legislature and the House and Senate education committees have been kind of researching dyslexia a lot more and how important it's actually a lot of people who have it that are never caught of being, I don't know what to say on it. I hate to say, use the word labeled dyslexia, but finding out that they have dyslexia. So I just favor this policy. I'm really happy that you're going to be doing this here in Lafourche. Thank you.
Thank you, Ron. Any other public comment? Come on down. You're the next contestant. Price is right.
Policy.
I don't know if I can do this. This is Shanna Yuritich, 466 Crossing North. But I don't think I can ask questions, right? I was trying to follow
I'll
it.
give you some latitude in that.
I
Sure.
appreciate that. Okay, so is this at per school or someone to test or per school or for the district?
So how do you understand that, Mr. Phillips? It sounds like it's a screening company to screen, and it would be made available to each district probably on a rotating basis based on their ability.
It will probably be, yeah,
Okay.
if you don't
Ms.
mind.
Hodgson, go ahead.
It'll
Ms. Hudson's
probably,
got a vote.
yeah, it'll probably be a screening instrument that is approved, that our people will be trained to administer the instrument. But, we currently have something in place, but this will be a little different, but it just will require some training and then will be done at the school level.
And that's available. I love it.
It sounds like a screening tool that they're pushing,
Yeah.
but they're gonna probably hire a company via RFP to create
An
the
instrument for us to
instrument.
use,
the
yes.
So
district.
needed. Oh, that's beautiful. I appreciate that.
You're welcome. Any other public comment? Any board discussion?
Just as a clarification again, this screening is just a screening to say the child is at risk of dyslexia, not that they have dyslexia, correct? I am correct.
Yeah, and you remember from your days as a
Right.
principal. And
I didn't
I
want you
almost
to get
caution
the
not
wrong
to get into the
idea.
weeds here, but only a clinician can
Right.
diagnose someone with that specific trait, as I understand it. What the school systems would say is based on the results of this screener, you have characteristics that are consistent with dyslexia rather than diagnosing. I believe that you would have to be a clinician, a physician.
Position to say you have dyslexia, but the school will do things to help the child that is at risk of dyslexia, but we don't say you. I just didn't want them to be.
Yes, ma'am. Please. And to just expand the conversation further, it's important to understand that this policy change coming to us because of a change in state law also dovetails with the retention law for third graders. Remember that next year, any student that's in the lowest scoring category on our DIBELS, the literacy screener, our weakest readers will have to be retained in the third grade unless they do have characteristics consistent with dyslexia. The screener is going to marry with that policy to prevent children suffering with a disability from being retained in third grade.
Any other board discussion? So at risk of extending this conversation further, just an FYI to everyone. So last, would have been in the legislative session that ended last summer. They are mandating preparation programs, university programs, that every student that registers or starts their college career in this coming fall have a 3-hour complete just dyslexia course as part of their preparation. So the individuals obviously that'll be coming out in 4 years, but probably even sooner, because our plans at Nichols is to implement this course starting this fall and advising students into it. You can't make them come off of their original degree catalog, but they can choose to opt into that course or opt into the new catalog with the course. So we expect to probably fill a class this fall. The person that'll be teaching it is our former dyslexia director. And so she'll be managing that course. She already has the content put together. And so again, it's all into support of this mode. And again, this instrument will help get all teachers kind of up to speed with being able to identify characteristics and maybe get some additional services provided. That is the Nichols side of it. Any other board discussion? And sensing none, we can vote. And motion carries. Section 3, academic supervisory staff updates. First one is elementary education. Ms. Hudson.
Alrighty, so just a few updates. Last board meeting, it was approved that we could hire Great Minds as a consultant to go into each of our schools to provide professional development, mostly to our leadership teams, to sort of guide them in what to look for during instruction and to sort of give them feedback. So it's more professional development for our leaders. We're currently, that started this week. We're getting really good feedback from that, so that'll continue. Each of our elementary schools will get a visit from the consultant. In January, we just completed our middle of the year's DIBELS testing. We're currently working on providing professional development, again, to our leaders, our interventionists, and our coaches on taking the DIBELS data, breaking it down, and providing instructional supports based on what the data says. And so again, it kind of fits into the theme of the night about literacy. We are working on that. We did part 1. We feel like we need a part 2 because we want to go a little further into that data. Again, with literacy, we currently adopted Lexia Learning in 13 of our 18 elementary schools, where this is a pilot that we were offered to do. So we'll participate in that until the end of the school year. We'll take that data. If we see a lot of improvement in student achievement, we will hopefully renew that for next school year. But we wanted to try it before we committed to it to long term. But it's the gold standard of what's out there. Our kids deserve that. And again, on the literacy front, we're in the process of preparing for summer school. All students who are not proficient on the end of the year literacy screener in 3rd and 4th grade will be required to attend 30 hours of summer school. We have 7 locations we've selected for summer school. It will be June 3rd through the 7th, 7 hours. So we have approximately, we believe, 100 to 125 students at each site, a total of about 800 students district-wide that will offer transportation, lunch. It will be a very short summer school, only 5 days, but it'll be jam-packed with lots of literacy opportunities for our students. That's it for elementary.
What grade is that?
Third and fourth grade. Yes, and the school will send out a letter as to which students need to attend.
Is mandatory?
It is mandatory for promotion. So, we would want all of our students to attend.
Thank you, Ms. Hodgson. Federal programs, Ms. Hontalon?
Good evening. I have two updates for you tonight. One is regarding Super App. So the Super App has been submitted for our parish, and revisions are due to the State Department this week. We requested competitive funding for curriculum, assessments, professional development, and specialized support for children with diverse needs. The tentative award date is in April. The second update is regarding pre-K registration, which began Monday, and it will continue through May 17th of 2024. Late registration will take place at the individual school sites. So right now it's taking place at the Media Center. That's it.
Thank you. Child welfare and attendance.
Yes,
Mr. Phil?
yes. So we currently have 113 students attending our 3 alternative sites. To break that down, we have 26 students who are in person at the Thibodeau site, 26 that are working virtual. We have 17 working on site at the Raceland Middle School site, 26 virtual. At the South site, we have 4 students in person, 14 working virtual. Again, we have 113 total at the 3 sites, 66 total working virtual. We currently are assigning our middle school students to virtual instruction at the Raceland Middle School site due to exceeding or near exceeding capacity at that site. And adjustments will continue to be made based on future referrals. Expulsion hearings, we've conducted 137 expulsion or exclusion hearings as of February 9th, 2024. This is a 15% reduction compared to February 9th, 2023. Truancy, we've held truancy court 14 times to assist parents and students with attendance issues. The average docket ranges between 18 and 20 families once a week. Again, we meet once a week at the central location, and then the next week we meet in Thibodeau. So every other week we're either in the central Couche area or Thibodeau area. In attendance, our average daily attendance percentage this year is currently at 91.28. Last year it was 90.78. That's our CWA report.
Thank you. All right. So with nothing further, this meeting's adjourned.